Welcome back to the program, sir.
Hey, Paul, it's always a pleasure to be with you.
So, yeah, absolutely. So tell us about this, the Reagan-Rockefeller dinner. I know what's interesting is this time last year in 2016, Arkansas was making national headlines for this dinner because candidate, now President Donald Trump, stopped by. He was the keynote. Tell us about that.
Actually, it was 2015. I don't want to
it was.
you, but
wow.
It was.
Time
we
flies.
got him just, yes. But we had a large crowd for him. We even got a little criticism because we let him come to Arkansas. Aren't we glad we did?
Yeah.
And he's quite the individual, and we're so glad to have Judge Jeanine because she is an unabashed supporter of his. I had the good fortune of hearing her in person at a recent RNC meeting, and once she gets over being a little shy and introverted, she really lets you know what she thinks about things. Okay?
Oh yeah, that's
and of course
exactly right.
I say that tongue in cheek.
Yeah,
but we are excited that she's coming, and I will tell you, she actually worked with Comey at one time in New York, and she knows him well. We are not permitting the press in at the dinner. We're going to have an availability beforehand because we feel like she'll be more open and honest if she doesn't have the press, reporting. But tickets are $150. We are, we still have some tickets, and you get those by going to arkansasgop.org. You can buy them online. If you want to meet her in person, we have reception tickets for $250 a couple. You can get your picture made with her, and so for a $500 package, you can have dinner and have your picture made with her that night. It's going to be in Little Rock at the Marriott Hotel in downtown. The reception starts at 6 and the dinner starts at 7.
Wow!
So we are excited that she's coming to Arkansas.
Yeah, again, folks, it's the RPA, Republican Party of Arkansas, Reagan-Rockefeller dinner with Judge Jeanine Pirro. You see her on Fox News Friday, July 28th. That's from 6 to 9. So if people want to get tickets, where do they need to call a number? Do they do it online?
They can do either one. They can call 501-372-7301. And we'll sell them tickets. We'll put their name on the list and sell them they don't have to have a physical ticket to get in, or they can go online at arkansasgop.org and purchase those tickets. If they want a table, we have tables for $2,500, okay,
wow,
which puts you up closer, okay, to where the action is. We're just glad she's coming. We had to make special arrangements because we have to get her back to New York Friday night for her show on Saturday night.
Wow.
So we're really excited, Paul. And, you talk about Trump in 2015. I want to tell you that Trump was here. Trump is president of the United States. In 2016, we had Tucker Carlson as our speaker at the Reagan-Rockefeller dinner. And look how we propelled him into the position that he's in.
Yeah.
He was also great last year. So we think we're on the cutting edge on a lot of
absolutely. I mean, look. There's based on that recent history. I mean, that's incredible. And the Donald Trump coming to. I mean, I went. It was down in Hot Springs. And sorry, I forgot. Time flies. I forget that the presidential campaign lasts so long. I mean, it's a 2-year process.
Well, it never stops. It doesn't ever start, and it doesn't ever stop. It just keeps going on. That's right.
We're talking with Doyle Webb. He's the Republican Party of Arkansas chairman. I want to say this though, like knowing that Donald came to Arkansas, it was when things were kind of in their infancy, and everybody came. They wanted to meet Donald. He is a huge star. He's got huge star power. But looking around the room, if I'm just being honest, I remember looking at some faces, and I might even lump myself in there as well, who were really glad he was there, but they didn't really think, right, that he had a chance at being in the White House. I mean, that's why it was the most incredible election in my lifetime, and yet he is. I mean, did you kind of get that vibe as well back in 2015?
Clearly, I thought that he would run late in the race. I thought that he was running a very unusual campaign that probably would not propel him into the presidency. And all the things that he did were the right things, which I believe today he's doing the right things as he moves along. A lot of us look at it and say, gosh, that's not the way we would normally do things, but this is not normal time either. Yeah. Let me tell you something interesting about him. Normally when we had Sarah Palin in town for the Reagan-Rockefeller dinner in 2010, believe it or not, we had questions ready and she answered questions. So
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
All right, folks, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for being with us. My name is Paul. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We are building a liberty machine, and we want you to help. We want you to be a part of it. One of the ways you can do that is to call us or text us, 870-275-9799. I don't really know where to begin today. I'll tell you what. Let's start by telling you what's coming up, okay? At the bottom of this hour, 4:34, we'll be speaking with the state senator from District 6, State Senator Gary Stubblefield. And I just want to talk to him a little bit about conservatism. The fact is, tomorrow, Conduit for Commerce will be presenting their Calvin Coolidge Awards. Have you heard about this? It's pretty spectacular. And there's several legislators who are being honored, who are freedom fighters, if you will. Heroes of Freedom Award winners. That's the official name. Awards reflect legislators who voted to decrease the size of government, voted to decrease dependency on government, and voted to not spend money we don't have. It's pretty incredible. We'll go over the full list with you today, but we'll also be talking with one of the award winners, Senator Gary Stubblefield, be on at 4:30, and he's always a pleasure to have on and to speak with. Then at 5 o'clock, we will be talking with Jonesboro City Councilman by the name of Bobby Long. He'll be stopping by to talk about the internet sales tax, and I want to ask him about his, really an impassioned plea to not pass a resolution. The cities across the state are now trying to raise their taxes. They're trying to urge ASA to call a special session to raise their taxes, and he wasn't having any of it. He'll be by at 5 o'clock. Folks, I don't know. Look, the road to socialized medicine is one that is that genuinely does make me fearful. Let me say that again. The road to socialized medicine genuinely makes me fearful. I don't dwell on the fear, right? But I'm honest enough to admit the idea of a bunch of bureaucrats deciding what procedure I can and can't have is terrifying. The idea that healthcare quality actually declines at a rapid rate because there is no competition and there is no free market in that is very worrisome to me. That is what we are fighting. We're fighting to not become the United Kingdom where Charlie Gard's parents are being told that their son would just be better off if he were allowed to die. That is what we are fighting, okay? So let's just get that clear. So all of this talk about D.C., repeal and replace, about how it's going to affect Arkansas's Medicaid expansion, that's the only thing ACE is concerned about, is really and truly not the issue. I mean, it is the issue if we keep it because it's only increasing dependency. It's only starting us down this generational track where people will be expectant, be entitled to a certain, to health care. And it's not the case. It's not the way to go. It doesn't make people better off. And so because of that, and because that's what we're fighting here, I hope, because Obamacare is a disaster, I really do hope that something can be done in D.C. that lowers premiums and makes some effort to put market forces in, because that's the only way premiums are going to go down, is to put market forces in. I am discouraged that the plan, repeal and replace, that apparently is still alive. I'm discouraged that one of the key selling points on this is to have these, subsidies, more subsidies for people, doing the very thing I just was saying is not the ideal thing, is to have people dependent on the government, that sort of thing. Folks, a welfare cliff is a real thing, okay? So if for example, let's say that you are one of these supposed 60,000 people under Asa Hutchinson's Arkansas Works that are now, because they did pass the work requirement legislation, the part-time work requirement legislation. By the way, it's going to be a nightmare to police. When it does get approved a year from now, it'll be very interesting to see the numbers on how many people have lost coverage because they failed to work, because it's like a 3-month process it takes to get your coverage canceled for not working and that sort of thing, or volunteering, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The concept is good. Yeah, you should be working. If you're able to work, you should be working. Hopefully you won't need public assistance anymore. But there's something called a welfare cliff, and it's very real, and people make decisions based on it. They make decisions based on the incentives or the disincentives that the government creates. Okay? It's very simple. Right now, if you work 30 hours a week at minimum wage, you wouldn't qualify for the private option, give or take, right? So if you work 40 hours a week at a minimum wage job, you're going to make too much money to qualify for Medicaid expansion. So what we've done with this legislation is they took 138% of the poverty level here in Arkansas, and they've dropped it down to, 100%, something like that. And so now you've got this group of people that are now, they say, going to transition to the private marketplace. It's going to transition to, they're going to have, they say, well, don't worry, we'll have subsidies, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you're working 29 hours a week and you figure out that if you work 28 hours a week, you get to keep your health insurance. Do you guys understand the incentive environment that the government creates when that happens? And so this idea that everything is fine and everything is turned around, again, the idea of work requirements, yeah. But this is going to be, first of all, a complete nightmare to track and verify, done by the same Arkansas DHS that spent hundreds of millions of dollars on software to verify if people were actually eligible for the private option, and failed miserably at it, and actually be in violation of federal statutes. I mean, just so you know how brazen in how people just, I mean, they knew they were in violation of the federal law by not doing the redeterminations that they were supposed to do. They knew they were in violation, and that did not scare them enough to make sure they got it right. If that doesn't worry them, I mean, it's this whole thing is an exercise, and I don't say this, I'm not happy about it. This whole thing is an exercise verifying all of my world beliefs when it comes to what government should be responsible for and what government should be responsible for, should and shouldn't. Okay. So I want to move on now. Senator Tom Cotton. Senator Tom Cotton did an interview with TalkBusiness.net's Roby Brock. And this is a much anticipated interview because people have been wanting to get Senator Cotton's take on this, and the new news I guess yesterday was, or 2 days ago, we're going to go through with just a simple repeal, but then yesterday after Donald Trump's lunch with the Senate, or with Republican senators, the repeal and replace effort was back on. The repeal and replace effort was, they're going to take another stab at it hopefully Monday. So the first question, Roby Brock decides, he asks Tom Cotton this, quote, let's begin with this whole repeal now, replace later. You said on Tuesday that you supported that approach. However, in January of this year, you told Meet the Press you need to have a solution in place before anybody would move forward. How do you square those two statements? Tom Cotton responds, cut one.
Well, Roby, repealing Obamacare and working on a replacement over a 2-year period isn't the best solution. It seemed earlier this week like that was the most practical solution given where we were. In January, frankly, I had a hard time imagining that so many Republican senators who had campaigned on repealing and replacing Obamacare wouldn't be so enthusiastic to doing so when it got down to brass tacks. However, I can tell all of your viewers that we had a very productive and constructive lunch with President Trump at the White House today, and we're still going to be working on negotiating a replacement bill right now that we can vote on next week. I hope that we can get to a solution that's going to make health care a little bit better and a little bit more affordable for Arkansans. That's what we're going to be working on over the next few days.
There are Arkansans who cannot afford their health insurance. Now, it is my contention that one of the reasons that they can't afford health insurance, one of the reasons premiums have gone up to the degree they have, is because somebody had to pay for all of these new people who are getting the program for free. It's a very simple concept. So what I have been saying, and I don't know, for what I can tell, the Senate bill's not going to do this. The Senate bill is going to take that match rate down to 30%, which sends, I will say this, if that does happen, that sends Medicaid expansion in Arkansas into a tailspin, and there's no way we can afford it because we can't afford 5%. We're not going to be able to afford 10%. So we certainly can't afford 30%. So Medicaid expansion will end in Arkansas if the rate does truly, now it's not going to happen for a few years, but if it does truly do what the Senate bill wants to do, it go to 30-70, it's over, in my opinion. Okay. But the only way to get premiums under control, and that may do it, the fact that it goes away may actually do it, but you've got to quit giving so much of it away for free. And I don't know if they certainly, I don't feel like, have the political will to do that directly. Again, it may just be an indirect thing when a state like Arkansas is like, we can't continue to afford this because, number one, our truly needy people are actually going to really suffer. All right, question number 2, Roby Brock. Again, talkbusiness.net, talk business and politics. Roby asks Senator Cotton, is this measure that you and the president talked about today at lunch, is this going to have some new details in it that we haven't heard before? And will it be a Republican kind of leaning type vote in terms of you haven't had any Democratic input on this? Go.
No, Roby, unfortunately, we still don't have any cooperation from the Democrats on this health care measure, even though Obamacare is hurting their states just as much as it's hurting Republican states. So we're going to continue to try to find 50 Republican votes. We'll start with the measure that we're under consideration until Monday night, try to tweak it in various ways to make sure that those people who need a little bit extra financial assistance can get it to pay for their premiums or pay for their deductibles. Maybe also change the Obamacare regulations so Arkansans will have more choice in the kind of insurance plan that they and their family need, so they can buy plans that suit those needs as opposed to have a one-size-fits-all plan dictated by Obamacare. Again, I don't know if we'll be able to find a path forward to get to 50 votes, but I think we should certainly keep working on it, and I'm glad that President Trump asked us to do that, and there's a renewed commitment in the Republican caucus to do so.
All right. So there you have it. I mean, they got to get 50 votes. There's a renewed commitment to get 50 votes. Coming up here in a minute, when we come back from break, I'm going to play some more of this because Roby does ask about Governor Asa Hutchinson. He does ask about the conversations that he, Tom, and Senator Bozeman have had. We'll give you more of that when we come back. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program. Back in just a moment. Arkansas small businesses are tired of taxes that are too high and regulations that work as obstacles to small business success. If you own a small business, it's time to take action. Now, I'm not talking about the local chambers of commerce. I'm talking about an organization that's actually run by small business owners and are fighting for small businesses right here in the state of Arkansas. They're called Conduit for Action, and they're on your side. Conduit for Action is here not to get something from the government, but to be left alone by the government. Think of them as your personal advocate for limited government at the Capitol in Little Rock. If you're tired of all the politicians talking with no results and ready for action, start outsourcing your government affair needs with Conduit for Action. Go now to conduitforaction.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforaction.org, and stand up for small business in Arkansas.
This is Mother Government. My people, the promised revenue gathering to fund my motherly goals, such as the Arkansas Works Obamacare private option, has commenced. I have asked my representatives and senators to execute my will concerning new revenues, from the tires you use to drive on my roads, the candy and sodas you consume and purchase in my stores, and the digital products you download on my internet. Your sacrifices and tributes, which are owed, display a measure of obedience, but there are still collectible sacrifices I require from the people to increase the work and size of our great government of Arkansas. There are two matters left unresolved. 1. I require a general tribute for all purchases made on my internet. Not just digital products, but all products. My dear children, there are those who would thwart my motherly goals of progress. If you see them, please combat their misguided notions of freedom by using phrases like mom and pop, and tax cheat. 2. I still require more revenue sacrifices concerning your consumption of my gasoline. I require your undying loyalty on the subject. Subjects, in conclusion. More revenue is good. Static revenue is bad. This message was brought to you by your stewards, aristocrats serving Arkansas. Thank you, my children, in advance for your required and expected obedience that keeps society safe and prosperous. And always remember, from cradle to grave.
PHP Parody.
The Declaration will be a triumph. I tell you, a triumph. If I was ever sure of anything, I'm sure of that. A triumph. And if it isn't, we've still got 4 days left to think of something else.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program. Yes, some of my favorite bumper music that we can get, 870-275-9799. We are going over this interview, talkbusiness.net, Talk Business and Politics. Roby Brock interviewing Tom Cotton yesterday from Washington, D.C. Roby goes on and asks, quote, and you said that you think that there will be some tweaks coming between now and possibly next Monday when a vote on this might occur, the repeal and replace. Is there something specific you will be advocating for in terms of a tweak that would be beneficial to Arkansas from where things stand today? Cut 3.
Well, Roby, I certainly think that we should move forward with more consumer choice. That's an amendment that Ted Cruz and Mike Lee have proposed to the measure. A version of it was incorporated. We're frankly still waiting for some more information from the Department of Health and Human Services about what that will do to enrollment in insurance plans and premiums. But from the preliminary data, it looks pretty good, that over time, you'll see premiums declining pretty significantly. I'm also interested in seeing what the Secretary of HHS and the administrator of the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services can do to help those people who need a little more financial assistance, who may be coming off Medicaid, as we'll have in Arkansas about 60,000 people coming off Medicaid soon, get that assistance. That's the kind of model that some of the senators want to see, and actually they're looking to Arkansas, and what Governor Hutchinson and our legislature has done is kind of a model.
Looking to Arkansas and what Governor Hutchinson has done is kind of a model. Is kind of a model. Now, what they're talking about is not, okay, I can safely say, they're not looking to us and like, wow, Arkansas expanded Medicaid expansion the right way, right? No, they're not saying that at all. Matter of fact, Republicans are laughing at us. But what they are saying is, okay, these work requirements, they sure sound good in press reports. You know, these work requirements, Arkansas is doing them. We'd like other people to do them for everything. And I understand that. I understand why people, I mean, there were good conservative legislators that voted for work requirements, ACE's work requirements. And I get that. I would have had a really hard time trusting anything that's said, because it gave all this authority to DHS, which is actually something conservatives used to try to fight because they want legislative control, not more authority with DHS, But that's just my opinion. The concept of work requirements are great, but then again, you heard it there. The 60,000 people that are supposedly going to transfer off, assuming the fact that somebody, when they find out if they just work less, they'll get to keep their insurance. Well, I mean, it's a work requirement. I understand that, but you know what I'm saying. You've got this 3-month period that's weird. You have to not have done what they want you to do for 3 months, and then maybe, I don't know, you can do it for a month and then wait another 2 months, and then I still don't have any specifics about that. But that is what it's just not we only have 1 minute left. We've got more to get to. We're going to be talking with Senator Gary Stubblefield when we come back. He'll be on the program. I'm excited to talk about him. It's been a little while. But think about that. You said that you think there will be some tweaks coming. Now, he did say, Tom Cotton did say, which I think the Ted Cruz amendment sounds like it should lower premiums. I certainly hope that it will lower premiums. But anyway, we're going to wait and see. We're going to get to cuts 4 and 5 of this interview with that mentions Governor Hutchinson and Senator Cotton, because it's pretty interesting. That's when they actually bring up the cuts to Medicaid, things like that. So we'll get all of that before the show's over today. I can promise you that. The phone number to call us or text, 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program. We'll be back in a moment. Kind of. We'll be kind of back. Just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Donald Trump, I said, okay, do you want us to have prepared questions and you'll answer them? No. I said, do you want me to call on people in the audience and kind of protect you there and cut them off? Oh, no, I'll call on people. I'll handle the question and answer. We'll just let the questions come from the audience. And
wow.
So it's very conceivable, and I don't know this for sure yet, that Judge Janine will do the very same thing. She's not shy at all. She's a very interesting individual.
Hey, let me ask you this. It also says here on the ArkansasGOP.org website, RNC General Counsel. That's the Republican National Committee. Tell us about that. Tell us how you got involved there.
I've been on the National Committee since I was elected chairman in 2008. And with our new chairman, Ronna Romney McDaniel, she can appoint a general counsel. That's one of the officers of the party. There's 5 officers, and she appointed me, asked me if I would serve as the general counsel and serve as state party chairman as well. And I was honored to do it. I'm the first Arkansan to ever serve as an officer of the Republican National Committee, which means I am responsible. I have a staff of attorneys, 4 attorneys at the RNC. I'm actually a member of every committee of the RNC. So it's quite an honor. Arkansas has some influence that it may not have had in prior years.
Yeah.
So it's not like I have to move to D.C. As someone said, are you going to have to move? I said, heck no, I'm not getting up there in the middle of that swamp. I don't mind going up a little bit. My web feet will take care of me, So, but it's a great honor to be the general counsel of the party.
Again, folks, we're talking with Mr. Doyle Webb, the Republican Party of Arkansas chairman, talking about the RPA Reagan-Rockefeller dinner this coming July 28th. That's a Friday from 6 to 9, the Marriott Hotel in Little Rock. Chairman Webb, I got a couple of what I would consider hard questions I just want to ask you. Are you up for that?
I am always up for a hard question. I may not give a hard answer, but I'm up.
Okay.
Whip it on me.
I think you can handle it. I think you can handle it. Okay, so here's the question. How do Republicans, you're the RPA chairman, so how do Republicans protect the image, their image, the reputation, especially if you look at the platform, from tax and spend big government leadership? And so feel free to respond to that however you will.
Sure. Well, I believe, and I'm asked that quite often. I tell people that primaries, if there's a candidate that is not acting in the way that you think they should act, a primary can state, what positions you want a candidate to have. If a candidate is not as conservative as you think, and there's another candidate in the race and they're more conservative, I would encourage you to participate in the primary and vote for that more conservative candidate. I think the primaries define the party. Okay? That's what I believe.
Yeah, I think that's a really good answer, folks. That's the importance of Republican Party primaries. And Chairman Webb, I'm glad to hear that you support them. To support the whole process.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's kind of where, within the Republican Party, we have an actual choice.
That's right. That's right. And let me say this. I'll kind of go, and Paul, you've probably heard me say this before. I'm
going to be. Tom has a point. What sort of bird shall we choose as the symbol of our new America?
The eagle.
The dove. The turkey.
The eagle.
The dove.
The eagle.
The eagle. The turkey.
The eagle is a majestic bird.
The eagle is a scavenger, a thief, and a coward. A symbol of over 10 centuries of European mischief.
The turkey.
The turkey is a truly noble bird. Native American, source of sustenance of our original settlers. An incredibly brave fellow who will not flinch at attacking a regiment of Englishmen, single-handedly. Therefore, the national bird of America is going to be...
The eagle.
The eagle.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for being with us. Paul Harrell here, and welcome back to the program. We have Senator Gary Stubblefield is with us. Senator Stubblefield, welcome, sir.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I understand you're in another time zone.
I am in another time zone. I almost forgot to call you.
Oh,
My
well,
wife
good.
reminded me.
Oh, good. Well, listen, I wanted to have you on just for a couple reasons. First of all, it's been a while since we talked.
Right.
But second of all, Conduit for Commerce, they've got their Calvin Coolidge Awards tomorrow night, and I understand since you're out of town, you're not going to be able to make it. But I just wanted to have you on and just publicly recognize, say congratulations for getting the Calvin Coolidge Award. It's pretty awesome.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. When I ran for public office back in 2010, I ran for the House. First of all, and I had a goal, and the goal in my life was to do all I could to promote the principles of free market, limited government, and federalism. And as long as I serve in the Arkansas legislature, I intend to keep. So I'm very honored to receive that award.
Yes, absolutely. So what about the feel? I know we've talked about the session before, but you've been involved in several sessions. And the feeling, there's different moods, I would imagine, in each one's, and things are different in each one. I mean, anything stand out to you as maybe something that would characterize the status of things right now in the Arkansas legislature?
Well, let me take you back, Paul, to 2013 session whenever we voted on the private option the first time. I remember that vividly because there was a large amount of sometimes even threats, but fear mongering and doom and gloom and all these different scenarios. In fact, I think they even went to some of the senators' districts and threatened cuts to children's programs and all kinds of things like that were certainly unwarranted. I mean, there was no factual basis for anything they were doing. They were pulling numbers out of thin air, numbers that were not real numbers. And that's, of course, I understand that. That's been around. That tactic has been around since the beginning of time, and it will still be around when we're gone. And that's one of the problems I have with the federal government right now. The federal government, it always amazes me how a country like ours that has a document like no other document in the world can rank 17th in the world economic freedom. That just amazes me. But I also understand, after looking and studying Washington, D.C., they're not going to change. They're never going to change, Paul. That's just a fact because of the cronyism and the political expediency that goes on in Washington. Unless you get a unique group of people up there, which is never going to happen, it's going to be impossible for the federal government to stop spending. I mean, it's structurally impossible because of the way it's set up. And the Federal Reserve, how they loan the federal government money and then give the interest back. And, last year alone, I read that we had a $1.6 trillion added to the debt on top of another $7 trillion that was added to the unfunded liabilities. And when you look at history, no other country ever has been in the situation we are financially and come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you talk about the GDP versus the debt, there's just no other country that's been where we are as far as our debt versus our gross domestic product. And we're in a serious situation. I don't think a lot of people realize it, but I think we're a lot farther down the road than what we have got to somehow, I don't know how we're going to do it, but we have got to start shrinking the federal government and somehow return state sovereignty. Everybody talks about the 10th Amendment, but when you look at the 10th Amendment and what's been done by the judges, I mean, they've taken a lot of the teeth out of the 10th Amendment, where states are, we've become nothing more, like I said before, than regional agencies that they use with these unfunded mandates. You can't, if you bring up, I know I've been there since 2011, if you bring up a bill or sponsor a bill to cut funding or cut spending to a particular agency, the first thing you hear is, we can't do that because if we do, we will lose our federal funding.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what good are we? We, out of every dollar, I think 60% of it is already, decided where it's going to be spent. So we have control over about 40 cents out of every dollar. And that's just not right. I mean, we've got to get the power back to the people and to the states and to local control. And until we do that, this country is going to continue down a very dangerous path.
We're talking with Gary Stubblefield, the state senator from District 6. Senator Stubblefield, you mentioned how hard it is to get D.C. to stop, to do, and I think we're seeing that right on display when it comes to repealing Obamacare. We've had statewide elections, we've had state, representative elections, state senate elections. The whole country has experienced this massive wave of Republicans getting elected on this issue, repealing Obamacare. State houses going to total Republican control. The U.S. Congress, the House, then the Senate, then the presidency. And yet they don't want to repeal this thing. And even the one that they've got, which I hope does some good, I have my doubts. You have our own governor begging Senator Cotton and Senator Bozeman to tell their colleagues that we can't afford to get the Medicaid match rate slashed from 10% to 30%. I mean, it really, what you just talked about, the allergy they have to actually doing what the people want, which is smaller government, is on display right now for everybody to see.
Right. It will never stop. I don't think it'll ever stop because unless the state. That's the reason I was such a strong advocate for Article 5. Article 5 is the only way we can ever rein in the federal government. When 38 states come together and with the calling a convention of states and putting some restraints on the federal government spending and term limits and other issues, that's the only way we're ever going to rein in the federal government. They will never stop.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are basically out of control.
Wow.
And what amazes me is all these senators, these Republican senators, that ran for 8 years, they have had 8 years to come up with an alternative to Obamacare. And for 8 years, they campaigned and promised, hundreds and hundreds of times, I've heard them say, and I'm not talking about Senator Cotton or Senator Bozeman. I'm talking about some of these senators from other states who promised they would, the first thing they would do would repeal Obamacare, and yet now look where we're at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's just amazing to me.
Yeah, and I want to say something real quick. I was playing an interview with Senator Cotton and Roby Brock earlier, and I just want to say I have no reason right now to believe that Senator Bozeman or Senator Cotton are not going to vote and do what the people elected them to do. There's just this very strange. There's this very strange divide. It's going unspoken among the senators between the governor and between John and Tom, because it's like, you guys kind of made your bed and you're wanting to keep this welfare program, but we're not really coming out and saying, hey, Medicaid expansion is a giant part of Obamacare and it's why things are so bad right now. It's a big part of why things are so bad right now. There's just kind of a lot of unspoken things going on right now. It's my opinion anyway. So, but I expect them to vote for the bill. I mean, that's what they are saying they're going to do. So.
Well, I do too. But there were some people that predicted several years ago that we would be in this same situation. There would be another administration, and we might not be able to count on the federal government to do the things they said they would do. And really, we're in between the governor is in between a rock and a hard place right now. And, I've always believed that Medicaid is not, it's just one of the worst forms of health care we've got in our states. And that we've got to do some, I heard some ideas, talking to a guy about some ideas about improving our health care, about having a nationwide shopping for health insurance.
That'd be nice.
Being able to let individuals shop across the country for health insurance.
Yeah, I'd like to see that little Geico. That little Geico could now also sell me health insurance if he wants.
I can assure you that would bring down prices. And having transparency in Medicaid, I mean, having them post the prices for all their services. I mean, I have seen a range, for example, I think it was a nuclear stress test that I saw, where the prices range from $1,300 to $7,800 in Arkansas. So, yeah, I mean, you've got those kind of discrepancies in medical procedures. And, you know, we need to allow insurance policies to be tailored to the individual, not this one-size-fits-all that's coming out of Washington. And forget some of these medical savings accounts. I mean, there's so many things we could do, but the first thing we need to do is get government out of healthcare. Mm-hmm. They have no business being in the healthcare business.
Yeah,
it was never intended to be that way.
Yeah. Yeah, they got to get our.
Let the markets work. Let the markets work.
I completely agree. They got to get our premiums down. The market's the only way to do that. My fear is, see, a key component of this national plan, Senator Stubblefield, key component of it is to kind of provide another subsidy, like a new subsidy for these folks who are going to be transitioning into the marketplace. And it's just like, wow, when did that become part of the Republican Party platform? I don't remember.
Right. No, I don't remember it either. But I mean, it's pretty obvious that many of these insurers are pulling out of the markets. I think I read where Humana now was going to pull out of the markets. A lot of the co-ops are failing, and companies like Aetna and Anthem, and even Blue Cross Blue Shield, they've all reduced their plan offerings, and yet you got to realize something: the government is still propping these insurance companies up.
Yeah,
I mean it's like it's no longer a patient-doctor relationship. Now we've got a third and fourth tier. We've got the government regulators who collaborate with the providers, the insurers, and which to me is just a recipe for corruption. And
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. When Obamacare was first enacted, I've been doing this a lot lately, but I'd love to get your comment on this. Obamacare was first enacted. Everybody talked about socialized medicine, the dangers of it. Everybody in Arkansas did, especially if you were a Republican. And everybody, we even talked about death panels. We talked about the very thing that's going on right now in the United Kingdom with that little boy, those parents that are just trying to get some treatment. It's experimental, but they just want to try. Everybody talked about it. Nobody talks about it anymore, and yet it's right across the pond there, right across the Atlantic. We can see it. We don't want to go there, and it's almost like there's people that don't think that this is, if we don't get this right, this is where we're moving toward this type of bureaucratic state. And I actually think, Senator Stubblefield, that some of these insurance companies that have, like in Arkansas, that have gotten addicted to this federal or this taxpayer guaranteed revenue stream, if it ever comes to full socialized medicine, it will be the insurance company heads and executives that get the government jobs. They're going to be taken care of. They're going to be fine. This idea of, well, you're taking my private company away, it's not really that private right now anyway, and so it's not that great of a leap to think that they're just going to get absorbed and created into some national health organization.
Well, anybody that doesn't realize that the Affordable Care Act was nothing more than a pathway to get us to socialized medicine, a single-payer system, I mean, that was what it was all about. We do not want I can assure you, we do not want Western Europe health care where you have to wait 12 to 15 weeks to see a primary care physician. I mean, one of the reasons their health care is cheaper in Europe is because they ration it. We don't want that here. I mean, the only crisis we have here in our health care system is because we have no free markets here anymore. It's the government. I mean, they've taken all that responsibility. I mean, that is our main problem. Think about it, Paul. A few years ago, they started these electronic records. Well, I can remember when laundromats started electronic records 15 years ago. Why did the health industry take so long to start? And then a doctor spends a fourth of their time filling out records. And, I don't think the crummiest motel in Arkansas or in America would put you in a room with someone else and put a curtain between you. That is not the kind of health care I don't think the American people expect. We have a broken healthcare system. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
But using scare tactics like they used in the Arkansas legislature to try to get a group of conservatives to change their mind so they could have a majority. That's the wrong way to go about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
That's
that
the wrong way to go about
really
it.
is
There's
the
been a
worst.
lot of it.
Go ahead.
Well, it doesn't work on me. It doesn't work on me.
No, it doesn't. And that, you know what?
I remember.
That's why you're getting a Calvin Coolidge Award. I mean, that's why you've been recognized here by Conduit for Commerce.
Well, thank you. I remember one day I was walking into Big Mac during those budget hearings over the Arkansas Works, and one of the lobbyists asked me, he said, "Did you have an epiphany last night?" And I said, "I sure did. I had a dream." I said, "In the dream, it's Satan, get thee behind me." And he turned and walked away, so I didn't have any more problems with him. He was wanting me to vote for Arkansas Works.
Oh, really? Well, I mean, you quoted Scripture to him. He doesn't like that very much.
No, that's pretty powerful.
From my experience. And your experience, too. All right, so Senator Gary Stubblefield, we appreciate it, sir. You be safe, and thank you so much, and congratulations on the award, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
All righty, folks, the telephone number, 870-275-9799. The Liberty Machine rolls on. Next. Whether you're looking for a small desktop copier and printer, thinking about adding color to your documents, or considering a document management solution, Total Document Solutions is there to help. In business for decades, Total Document Solutions is an independently owned company that specializes in the ability to provide a high level of service in Northwest Arkansas, the Arkansas River Valley, Southwest Missouri, and Southeast Kansas as an exclusive Platinum Authorized Sales Agent for the Xerox Corporation. At Total Document Solutions, they offer customers technology services to improve business results. Their dedicated sales team has the unmatched industry knowledge, professionalism, and expertise needed to address the unique challenges of your business. Total Document Solutions is independent, local, and well-connected to serve your office products and document needs. Call them today at 479-575-0770. That's 479-575-0770 for your Total Document Solutions.
Welcome to Common Sense and Liberty. I'm Donnie Copeland. Well, there's been a little bit of stirring going on in political circles of late, and that is a result of Conduit from Northwest Arkansas releasing their legislative scorecard. And basically, this is just an indication or a scoring of how your legislator voted in this past legislative session. Now, I don't know why some legislators act surprised. I don't know why some got upset. I mean, if you voted conservative, you got a good score. If you voted liberal, you got a terrible score. If you voted somewhere in the middle, you got a score somewhere in the middle. And so how to fix that next time is just vote like the Republican platform, and then vote like you told the people who elected you that you would vote, and you won't be surprised next time. This is Donnie Copeland for Common Sense and Liberty.
Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to Talk Radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise. All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Follow me on Twitter at Paul Harrell 1776. That's at Paul Harrell, Harrell 1776. What is this? Hang on a second. The governor's spokesperson, one of only 6 states. Said, oh my goodness. All right. Yeah, let's go ahead and cue that up. We got 5 minutes before the top of the hour. Tom Cotton interviewed by Roby Brock over at talkbusiness.net. Roby Brock asking Tom Cotton, quote, Governor Hutchinson and you have had a lot of conversations, at least according to Governor Hutchinson. He says that is the case, and I believe him when he says that. And one of the things that he says he has advocated to you and to Senator Bozeman is that any cuts to Medicaid could be detrimental to Arkansas. By one estimate, he said it could be a blow of $500 million, a $500 million hole in the Arkansas state budget. Are you, I guess, of the opinion, Roby Brock asked, and are you fighting for the position of no cuts to Medicaid as it would affect Arkansas? Cut 4.
Roby, Governor Hutchinson and I have consulted on many occasions over the last several months. I know he's done the same thing with John Bozeman, and I appreciate his constructive approach to this as well. He knows that Obamacare is failing, too. This legislation will not have any cuts to Medicaid. In every single year...
Stop for a second. Stop. Hang on. He's very congenial to the governor. He appreciates he's constructive. I get it. Like I said earlier, these guys are in a rock and a hard place. They don't want to come out and say, we completely disagree with Asa. I mean, I guess they don't. I'm assuming they don't because they're not. But at the same time, Obamacare, a key component of Obamacare is Medicaid expansion. And it's one of the reasons things are so messed up with our health care right now. It's a huge reason why. I mean, it just is. So, I mean, let the facts... we don't have the money. That's the first thing. But it's part of this idea of you're giving away so much of it for free, so everybody's having to pay more. I mean, the money's going to come from somewhere with all this subsidy. Okay, so yeah, go ahead. Let's get the full comment. Go ahead.
Roby, Governor Hutchinson and I have consulted on many occasions over the last several months. I know he's done the same thing with John Bozeman, and I appreciate his constructive approach to this as well. He knows that Obamacare is failing, too. This legislation will not have any cuts to Medicaid. In every single year, Medicaid spending would continue to increase. We would also change Medicaid.
And pause it. So Tom says, Senator Cotton says no cuts to Medicaid. Now, what he's talking about is that he's not talking about the match rate. He's talking about that Medicaid is still we're still going to be spent. I'm assuming that's what he's talking about. Not talking about the match rate. He's talking about how Medicaid spending is going to continue, meaning at all. Traditional Medicaid as well. So we're still going to commit the same amount of resources to it. It's just going to go up. Now keep going.
A kind of block grant program, just like Bill Clinton and Republicans did to welfare in the 1990s to give our state government more flexibility, more authority to craft solutions that work for Arkansas. That's going to start in the hands of Governor Hutchinson and this legislature, but it's going to pass through many more hands over the next 10 years because that's the timeline of the solution we're trying to craft, a solution that's going to last for the long term, fix the problems with our health care system that predated Obamacare, but also fix the problems that Obamacare either made worse or created.
Now see, Roby Brock, I don't think he liked that answer because his next question was, quote, some have said, including the governor, that as it stands right now in terms of the GOP plans that have been out there, that the slowdown to Medicaid growth and the shift to the states to control some of this Medicaid spending is going to be a negative for the state of Arkansas, that it is going to not fill the gap, not fill the hole. But I hear you saying that it's going to be the reverse of that. So who are we to believe? So he basically asks him, the governor's saying the sky's going to fall. And you just said it's not going to fall. So who are we to believe? And we'll give you Senator Tom Cotton's answer next hour. Don't go anywhere, folks. One more hour coming your way next.
Rush, Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013 FM News Talk, KBTM.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
In prior years.
Yeah.
So it's not like I have to move to D.C. As someone said, are you going to have to move? I said, heck no, I'm not getting up there in the middle of that swamp. I don't mind going up a little bit. My web feet will take care of me, So, but it's a great honor to be the general counsel of the party.
Again, folks, we're talking with Mr. Doyle Webb, the Republican Party of Arkansas chairman, talking about the RPA Reagan-Rockefeller dinner this coming July 28th. That's a Friday from 6 to 9, the Marriott Hotel in Little Rock. Chairman Webb, I got a couple of what I would consider hard questions I just want to ask you. Are you up for that?
I am always up for a hard question. I may not give a hard answer, but I'm up.
Okay.
Whip it on me.
I think you can handle it. I think you can handle it. Okay, so here's the question. How do Republicans, you're the RPA chairman, so how do Republicans protect the image, their image, the reputation, especially if you look at the platform, from tax and spend big government leadership? And so feel free to respond to that however you will.
Sure. Well, I believe, and I'm asked that quite often. I tell people that primaries, if there's a candidate that is not acting in the way that you think they should act, a primary can state, what positions you want a candidate to have. If a candidate is not as conservative as you think, and there's another candidate in the race and they're more conservative, I would encourage you to participate in the primary and vote for that more conservative candidate. I think the primaries define the party. Okay? That's what I believe.
Yeah, I think that's a really good answer, folks. That's the importance of Republican Party primaries. And Chairman Webb, I'm glad to hear that you support them. To support the whole process.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's kind of where, within the Republican Party, we have an actual choice.
That's right. That's right. And let me say this: I'll kind of go, and Paul, you've probably heard me say this before. I go with the Ronald Reagan belief that my friends vote the way I want them to 80% of the time. I tell people there's no perfect Republican other than me. I believe that I'm a perfect Republican. I'm sure, Paul, that you believe that you're a perfect Republican. It's hard to find clones of me or clones of you, okay?
Right.
So you have to look, you have to really have some deep thought, be prayerful. What do you value in your 80%, okay? And if you get 85%, if you get 90%, if you get 100%, of that individual, that's a blessing. Now, if you agree with that person 20% of the time, that's probably not your person you're going to vote for, okay, or probably not your friend at all in the electoral process. So I go with the Reagan rule, 80% you're my friend, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, and I've certainly heard that before. Specifically with Arkansas, though, it's the Republican Party is more popular than it's ever been. I mean, people have been knocking doors in the grassroots for decades trying to get to this point. And yet we're seeing, a lot of Democrats now switching. I mean, and a lot meaning just relatively, according, what normally that never should have happened. Historically in Arkansas, that's not what happened. So my question, and I don't really know how to ask it because I know Democrats are switching to the Republican Party, but how do we keep Democrats out of the Republican Party? And you understand the gist of my question? How do we keep... If it's a popular party and it's the only way you can get elected, how do we keep what is a failed ideology out of the Republican Party?
Once again, I go back to that primary issue. Now, if it's a Democrat who switched parties so that they can get elected, a good primary will ferret that out, and you'll determine who is the more conservative, who is the more Republican, and the primary should take care of that. Okay. As far as voting in the primary, we welcome everyone into the primary to vote. We had our largest turnout that we've ever had in the presidential primary, close to 2-1 over the Democrats. I will tell you, I think most people, overwhelmingly, most people who vote in a Republican primary are conservative. There is always the exception that someone's coming over and voting in the primary to create a little mischief, if you will, or to support the more liberal candidate. But I've never found that to be a large majority of people.
Right.
Okay? It takes a lot of courage. It still takes a lot of courage to go into a polling place and the poll worker says, what primary do you want to vote in? And it takes some courage to say, I'm going to vote in the Republican primary. And I believe if you have that courage, you're probably on your way. If you're not already a Republican, you're on your way to being a conservative Republican.
Yeah. So I would take that. Would you support? There were some people kind of threw out some ideas in the last session about making Arkansas a close primary state. Did you ever have a position on that?
I do. I do not think this is the time to do that. I think that we may need to do that in the future. But I think at this point, Arkansas is still deciding.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
All right, folks, welcome to the program. It's hour number 2. Congratulations, you found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We're building a liberty machine. The phone number, call us, text us, 870-275-9799. I want to welcome to the program a man by the name of Bobby Long. Bobby, welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yes, sir. Glad that you're with us. Now, this time, 24 hours ago, we were playing your speech. Bobby Long is a Jonesboro alderman or city councilman. What ward do you represent?
Ward 6, position 1.
Okay. When did you first hear that the Jonesboro City Council was going to try to do the municipal league's bidding and pass a resolution urging Asa Hutchinson to call a special session to increase or create a new internet tax?
About, I guess, 3 to 4 days prior to the meeting. You know, they'd already done one resolution before that was going to our federal, to our senators.
Okay.
Yeah, so they'd already done one, and I was the sole opposition to that resolution. I wasn't as prepared as I was the other night, though.
Okay.
And when I figured that out, you know, I thought, yeah, I've got to speak up against that.
The sole opposition then. Last night, though, it did, or two nights ago, it passed 8-4. So you and 3 other colleagues voted against that. Who are those 3 other colleagues?
Gosh, I can't remember offhand.
Okay, well, that's okay. We can get it later.
The first time, though, I was the only one that voted no for the first one. So I think we're making headway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, apparently something I said or something that they had realized in between the last one and this one, you know, got them to come around to reason, you know, and vote against this resolution.
I think maybe one of the reasons is your side comment there when they got ready to vote, or I think it was just kind of a transition. It was after the mayor's comments, who's supportive of this measure, and you said, I just want to make the point that this resolution or this idea failed in the General Assembly in the last session just a few months ago. What do you make of that when you have state representatives from Northeast Arkansas like Dan Sullivan, Brant Smith, Jack Ladyman, Dwight Tosh voting against the internet sales tax, and then other elected representatives over the same area are now trying to undermine the people's representatives?
You know, here's the thing, and I tell this to my kids, I tell it to my wife all the time. When you try to make sense out of an unreasonable position, you're going to drive yourself crazy. You know, so Brant Smith and Dan Sullivan, those guys that voted against that, they know, because I get their Facebook posts and things like that, and they do have a pulse, I think, on the community, and they know what the people want. And it was even reflected in the polls that I cited the other night. I have absolutely no idea how an elected official, knowing that if it was going to go to the vote, to the people for a vote, and it would be just obliterated. It would be. There would be, just like the last time they tried to increase the tax on the people, it failed.
Yeah,
in Jonesboro.
Terribly. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, massively, embarrassingly so.
Yes. So why in the world would an elected official vote to support and push forward something that they know the people that they represent don't want? I'm not I'm not a career politician. This was my first stab at
tell us your background. So your first run for office and you won the first time. All right. So tell us what made you want to be a city councilman.
Gosh, ever since I was old enough, my dad was like that, and my dad is like that. If there's something that needs to be done, he just goes and does it. Mm-hmm. If there's something that needs to be done, he steps up and takes over if no one else will. And he's always been that, and I saw that as something I grew up with. So when I got older, I was always, if something needed to be done, no one else would do it, I just do it. And I still am like that. I don't mind taking the reins. I don't mind being a voice. I don't mind speaking out for those things that I feel passionate about. And so that's what I did. And when we moved back to Jonesboro multiple years ago, decades ago, I know that this was where I was going to raise my family. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I knew good and well that I wanted to be a part of how this city grew and how this city was going to go.
There's a lot of bad ideas out there.
There is. And I thought, if I could just gather the support. I knew there's people out there that thought like I did, that had my same values, my same convictions, and my same beliefs. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to give this a shot and see what happens.
Yeah, that's good. What was your background before? So what do you do now? When I came back to Jonesboro, I was executive director of a PHO, a physician hospital organization, where we contracted managed care contracts for hospitals and physician panels. I've been an HR director for the last 15 years and done a lot of other things, in that capacity. And a matter of fact, How did you get your limited government views? I'm curious. Because, just no offense, but, I don't know, are there a lot of limited government people writing managed care contracts? I mean, maybe. It's some,
Well, here's the thing, and I wrote that in a post today. My beliefs, convictions, and values did not come from my political beliefs. My political beliefs sprang from my Christian background. And my conservative background, my mom and dad are conservative. They believed in paying for what you got. They didn't overspend. They believed in personal responsibility. You take control. If you fail, own it.
Yeah.
If you succeed, share in your successes.
Right. Okay.
So that's sort of where I got that. And I work so hard for what we have. I don't like to see waste. I can't stand it. And I can't stand when people say they're going to do something, but then they don't do it. Or they campaign on something, but then go out and do the the opposite.
You suggested in your comments yesterday, before the city council, or I guess on Tuesday, we played them yesterday, that, or was it on Tuesday? Right. So what's today? Thursday?
Yes, it's
so I played it yesterday, it was Wednesday. I'm sorry, I'm confused. But you suggested that the money that government is getting now isn't necessarily spent appropriately, or that they're wasting, in many cases, the resources we're already giving them. So why should we allow them to take $100 million or more out of our pockets?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I don't understand that. It's like if I was a retailer, I would be almost appalled at this. Because when you've got somebody coming in, let's say I got $10 in my pocket, I would much rather have the profit margin that $10 could buy in my store than the fraction of amount of of benefit that I'm going to get from a tax dollar going to the state. You know, and to say that that is going to be something good for the retailers to take $100 million of buying power, and that's net money. That's not gross. That's net money. That is, I can spend it, you know, or I don't have to.
Yeah.
When you take $100 million out of that and shift it to the government, now I don't have any control over where that money's spent. Zero. None. I don't have an option of going and spending it at Gearhead or going in and spending it at Skinny J's or going and spending it at a local restaurant or wherever. You know, I don't have that option anymore. And if I was a local retailer, I would much rather have that money in the pockets of somebody that could come and walk into my store and spend it than to have it in the coffers of Little Rock so that they can spend it on.
You said it was a ruse in your comments, and I thought that was a perfect way because they're trying, you know, the mayor of Jonesboro, and this is going on in other cities too because the municipal league has all of them, you know, it's the city's lobbying arm essentially is what the municipal league is, and they're trying to lobby for this more money. You called it a ruse, and it is. The mayor says that e-fairness is critical to the survival of small business. And I don't agree with that at all. I think that's completely inaccurate.
I do too. Matter of fact, I know of small businesses right now that are brick and mortar that depend on their internet traffic. When their business is slow in walk-through traffic, they may be over there shipping up things that they've sold on the internet.
Yes.
And it doesn't. Every single retailer in Jonesboro has that option. They can set up an online store just like that and be in an online business. They can go and they can be an out-of-state retailer to a market in Missouri, Tennessee, Louisiana, wherever they want to be, Bangkok. It doesn't matter, you know. So it doesn't matter. So they could be an out-of-state retailer if they wanted to be and if they wanted to focus on that.
Yeah.
You know, but sometimes that's not their business model.
I know.
You know, that's not their business model.
And it's like,
and if it is, that's great. Go for it.
Yeah, and they say that they claim that it's e-fairness. I made the point yesterday, though, that it's not fair, though, because if you're in Indiana and all of a sudden now you're paying this unconstitutional sales tax, by the way, the Supreme Court, I mean, right now the precedent is you can't make them pay, so they're in many cases they're asking. Now, if the resolution is asking for them to collect the existing use tax that we're supposed to self-report, which I understand you said, Bobby, that you think that we should do away with that. If people, is that correct? That if we're considered tax cheats right now because of that?
Tax evaders.
Tax evaders.
Yeah, tax evaders.
Yeah.
Here's my suggestion. Here's what I did. You know, and my dad always said, you know, if you're gonna present a problem, offer a solution. So my solution is, let's just do away with it. You know, let's make Arkansas somewhere where people want to go and buy. Let's make Arkansas someplace where consumers have the power. You know, to where if we want to see our city grow. Matter of fact, we had it was called a revenue enhancement. You know, not long ago. In other words, it was across the board fee hikes, you know, on pretty much everything. But the part of it that got people just all up in arms was the stormwater drainage fee. You know, that was going to be assessed.
It's like $5 a person.
Yeah, I think it just sort of hit the fan and it died.
Washed away.
And washed away.
No pun intended.
Right now.
That's a lie.
You know, right now,
but
it probably will come up again in the future.
They always do, right? See this whiteboard?
Do.
Our whiteboard. Run it till it passes. They do that down in Little Rock. That's for example, down in Little Rock, internet sales tax fails, right? So what do? Well, then you know, Asa, by the way, Governor Hutchinson says he doesn't want to call a special session. He doesn't want to call a special session to pass internet sales tax. But the municipal league is getting all these cities to pass these resolutions. They want to get to like 300 out of 500 at least. And then Asa Hutchinson, this is what it's going to be. He's going to be like the girl that's like, you know, to her boyfriend of like 5 years. When are you going to propose to me? When are you going to propose to me? When are you going to propose to me? And then he finally says, all right, you know, will you marry me? And she's like, oh my goodness, you proposed. I'm so surprised. That's what Ace is. He's going to be like that. He's like, oh wow, I didn't realize all these cities wanted me to call a special session, and then he'll call the special session.
And the thing about it is, you know, these are going to be resolutions from the city council, who are supposed to be a representation of the city in which they serve. So when he gets all those, he can say, hey, you know what? I wasn't going to call it, but the overwhelming, cry for this, I had no other choice. Had no other choice.
Yeah, I know. That's what they do. And then they run it till it passes. They take an idea that's defeated, and then they find a way to bring it back. And that never happens when we're talking about shrinking government. There was a great bill to really reform the way we do elections and ending special elections unless you have severe circumstances. And that's a really good, I feel like, method to make sure you have the most accurate reflection of what the consent of the governor is, because more people show up to vote when you have a general election than these special elections. And it failed, right? It failed because of a state representative who thinks he should be a senator. His name's James Sturch, and he walked out after he had voted for the bill. Then he walked out. It's a whole thing. We've talked about it many times. But notice that doesn't get run and run and run until it passes. They don't do that for things that limit government or protect the taxpayers. They only do it for things that are going to give the government more money. And it really comes down to this. You said, why in the world would I ever, as an elected official, knowing if it was put to a vote of the people, right, it would completely fail. Why would I ever then vote to do that? Well, I think it's because they're listening to different sources. They're not really listening to the people. They're listening to special interest.
Well, and I think they've also got their focus off of possibly what they need to have their focus on. When you become an elected official,
That's all right.
When you become an elected official, you're in essence a servant of the people. But when you become a servant of the tax dollar that does that, then you get that and you serve that. So sometimes I think people just need to refocus and think, what am I here for? Am I here to secure as much money as I possibly can, even though I do it at the cost of what I told the people that I would vote for and do? So I think you have to almost readjust yourself and say, okay, I'm here for the people. I'm here for the people that put me in the seat. I said municipal league didn't put me here. They didn't vote me in.
That was good.
The people did. And there's absolutely no way on God's green earth that I was going to vote for that thing.
That was awesome. It was a great speech, and I love your facts. I love that you used some of David Crow's numbers.
I did.
About how big Arkansas government is and how we got to get that under control. But you were here, I guess you got here about 4:45. You were listening to my segment on Obamacare, private option, things like that. But mostly about just this, the idea of incentives and welfare programs.
Right.
And you were telling me something. Now, you're going to have to show your age here. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But you said
I'm okay with that.
All right, that's fine. You're a kickboxer. By the way, Bobby Long is a kickboxer. So if you try to pass the internet sales tax, he's just going to kick it in the face. In the face. All right, so you graduated from A-State.
I did.
In
1989.
89?
89.
I thought you said 85.
Well, I graduated BIC in 85.
Okay.
Went to college. It was during my college years.
Well, in 85, I was 1, so.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, all right.
You've already said that.
I know.
See,
I
that's the thing.
I just wanted to say it again. I wanted everyone to know that. All right.
That's terrible.
Our producer, our board op, he wasn't alive then.
You were not alive in 85?
93?
Oh, wow.
You were born in 93.
Oh,
my goodness. Okay, now I feel old.
Okay,
all right.
The tail end of 93, December 30th of 93.
So it's really 94. Okay, so
it's getting worse.
So tell me about what you were a hard worker. You had a job while you were in school.
Right. I grew up, a small Mississippi County town, Leachville. And gosh, I didn't know anything but work. My dad, I remember when I would mow the churchyard, he would take me out, drop me off with the lawnmower, and then he would go off somewhere, and I would just be sitting there with the lawnmower. And I would mow the churchyard. He'd come back and pick me up, And so I was in the cantaloupe fields when I was 14, graduated to watermelons when I was 16. So I didn't, I just worked for my money, because I knew that if I didn't, I wouldn't have any.
Yeah.
So when I got to college, first thing I did was I got a job at a grocery store. And the summer before I started school, I started working at a grocery store. And when I was going to college 2 years in, before I would go to work, if I had the opportunity, I'd go down to Earl Bell Community Center and play basketball. Well, I was down there with some friends, and I was playing basketball one day, and I noticed there were a lot of adults out there playing ball. And I got to looking around, I thought, it's the middle of the day. You're supposed to be at work. So I had to talk to some of them. I said, well, what do you do? do you work at night? What do you do? I said, no, I'm on disability.
Back in 1985.
I said, you're on disability? You just dumped. How does that work?
Oh gosh, what a problem! I mean,
Yeah.
that just
and I had to leave
illustrates.
early so
go
I
to
could
work.
get to work.
Yeah. And then
and then go to school.
Wow. That's crazy. What and see and
Yeah.
that's an issue. That's an issue. That's people exploiting the system and things like that. And anyway, so Bobby Long, I appreciate it, sir, coming on the program. I appreciate what you did. And where does it go from here? I mean, now it's past 8 to 4, and hopefully Asa won't call a special session.
He won't. But the good thing about it is, I'll be watching and I'll be looking.
Yeah.
And I'll be looking over things. And if there's something that comes up like this in the future, it just doesn't have to be about this.
Yeah.
It can be about anything.
If there are any city councilmen listening across the state right now, and your city's trying to do something similar, going to do the municipal league's bidding, and I would love to talk to you. I'd love to have you on and let me know what we can do to help.
I believe that video is even up on your.
Yeah.
Is it up on your?
Yeah, we've got Bobby
clip?
Long's clip, his video, and what he said and the information he had is up at our Facebook page. I retweeted it as well. It's facebook.com/Paul Talk Show. Check it out. Alderman Bobby Long, we appreciate it, sir.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to have you on again soon. Folks, we're going to take a break. Back in just a moment.
Whether you're looking for a small desktop copier and printer, thinking about adding color to your documents, or considering a document management solution, Total Document Solutions is there to help. In business for decades, Total Document Solutions is an independently owned company that specializes in the ability to provide a high level of service in Northwest Arkansas, the Arkansas River Valley, Southwest Missouri, and Southeast Kansas as an exclusive Platinum Authorized Sales Agent for the Xerox Corporation. At Total Document Solutions, they offer customers technology services to improve business results. Their dedicated sales team has the unmatched industry knowledge, professionalism, and expertise needed to address the unique challenges of your business. Total Document Solutions is independent, local, and well-connected to serve your office products and document needs. Call them today at 479-575-0770. That's 479-575-0770 for your Total Document Solutions.
In Arkansas, every single hour there is a politician not getting what they want. For some, it's an absolute nightmare. The sleepless nights wondering if progress will ever come. Lying awake pondering how to grow government in this political climate. Asking questions like, why don't my constituents want to pay a few cents more in taxes? Everyday politicians feel abused and neglected. These politicians are starving for power. They're hungry, confused, and they don't understand why no one seems to care. Will you be a patriot and commit today to help these poor, starved for power public officials? It's simple. All you have to do is commit to stay silent and never dissent or stand in the way of your politicians' rise to power. Never speak up or get engaged to stop the growth of government. By committing to these simple steps, you will ensure the life of your politician will be filled with contentment and the respect they are desperately seeking, as well as campaign contributions from lobbyists.
This message brought to you by Aristocrats Serving Arkansas.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
That it's a Republican state, and I would like that to come to fruition. And if we close the primary, that's going to keep some people out that eventually would have become Republican. Once again, if I thought there was mischief, I would say let's close it. But, if it ain't broke, don't fix it at this point. Now, the other one that I'm adamantly opposed to is what you saw in Georgia, what we see in Louisiana, and what we see in California called a jungle primary.
Yeah.
And that's where everyone, Democrats and Republicans, all file and they're on the same ballot in the primary.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone gets over 50%, they are elected at that point.
Okay.
And that's what you saw in Georgia. You had so many Republicans running, they split up the vote, Georgia 6, and nearly elected a true liberal into that position.
Yeah.
So I'm adamantly opposed to a jungle primary.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's too soon to think about a closed primary.
Okay, last question. Okay, what about?
Okay, am I doing all right?
You're
so
doing
far?
great. Yeah, and
right?
I really appreciate your time. Okay, you're doing great.
Sure.
All right, so here's the last question, and it's going to get a little bit more specific. So about those Democrats that are switching to Republicans. You have any comment on the Democrats that switch to Republicans after elections and then immediately are given committee chairmanships?
That concerns me. Okay.
Okay.
I think that people who earn it ought to serve it, and those that switch for the convenience of becoming a chairman, that concerns me greatly.
Okay. All right.
I think that I think a Republican majority should have Republican chairman. Okay, that's the way it is in Congress. Each committee should be a majority of Republicans. Same thing with the chairman and the co-chairman. I think people voted for a conservative government, and they should have a conservative government.
Yes. Mr. Doyle Webb, the Republican Party of Arkansas chairman, we appreciate it. Again, folks, it's the RPA Reagan-Rockefeller dinner with Judge Jeanine Pirro. You see her every weekend on Fox News. It's Friday, July 28th from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock at the Marriott in Little Rock. And for tickets, if you want to call for tickets, it's 501-372-7301. That's 501-372-7301. And Doyle, they can also get them online, correct? Where's that again?
Go to arkansasgop.org, and that'll come up, and you can buy tickets online, use your credit card.
Perfect.
Okay?
Doyle, I appreciate your time, sir.
I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Take care.
Yes, sir. Folks, we're going to go to break. The Liberty Machine is going to roll on, but we're coming back in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
The eagle's going to crack the shell of the egg that England laid. Yes, so we can tell on this humid Monday morning in this congressional incubator.
And just as Tom here has written, though the shell may belong to Great Britain, the eagle inside belongs to us.
And just as Tom here has written, we say to hell with Great Britain, the eagle inside belongs to us.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. That's great. Welcome.
What do you need me for, Paul?
I don't know. I need. I guess I need plural Plural, Joe. All right, so text message. So we just had Bobby Long on. He's a city councilman in Jonesboro, and we have a mountain home over in Baxter County. Paul, your guest is so right. Our local businesses in Mountain Home always rely on our internet sales when traffic is down, meaning when foot traffic is down. You know, it's an interesting argument that we're having here. And one of them, you see, it is a ruse. It's a total ruse. Politicians are really good, the big government ones, at carefully crafting their language to the point. Ace is really good at it, but they've got to have multiple points. They try to get these, but the main point is always protecting or increasing the size of government. They can't just say, hey, we're in financial trouble, we need more money. No. They have to bring up this idea of fairness. They have to bring up this idea of, they want you to believe that an internet business is the same as a brick-and-mortar business. They want you to ignore the generations, the decades-old facts concerning why you pay this tax. Well, you pay this tax because it goes to help your local government, They want you to ignore that. And anyway, let's get to the rest of Tom Cotton, shall we? Tom Cotton went on TalkBusiness.net, Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock. We're going to start with cut 4, Joe. We're going to go back. Roby Brock, quote, Governor Hutchinson and you have had a lot of conversations, at least according to Governor Hutchinson. He says that's the case, and I believe him when he says that. One of the things that he says he has advocated to you and to Senator Bozeman is that any cuts to Medicaid could be detrimental to Arkansas. By one estimate, he said it could be below a $500 million hole in Arkansas state budget. And you, are you, of the opinion, Roby Brock said, and are you fighting for the position of no cuts to Medicaid as it would affect Arkansas? Go.
Roby, Governor Hutchinson and I have consulted on many occasions over the last several months. I know he's done the same thing with John Bozeman, and I appreciate his constructive approach to this as well. He knows that Obamacare is failing, too. This legislation will not have any cuts to Medicaid. In every single year, Medicaid spending would continue to increase. We would also change Medicaid into a kind of block grant program, just like Bill Clinton and Republicans did to welfare in the 1990s, to give our state government more flexibility, more authority to craft solutions that work for Arkansas. That's going to start in the hands of Governor Hutchinson and this legislature, but it's going to pass through many more hands over the next 10 years because that's the timeline of the solution we're trying to craft, a solution that's going to last for the long term, fix the problems with our health care system that predated Obamacare, but also fix the problems that Obamacare either made worse or created.
So Senator Cotton there, in response to that question, mentions the block grant. And this block grant, according to recent reports, still not good enough to get Asa Hutchinson's support for this concept of repeal and replace. The governor's still wanting no cuts to the Medicaid match rate, which is not going to happen. I mean, I would be surprised. This is what you get when you're a southern state and you implement Obama's signature domestic achievement. This is what you get. But so Roby Brock, though, pushed in. Roby Brock pushing in, asking Senator Cotton, some have said, including the governor, that as it stands now, in terms of the GOP plans that have been out there, that the slowdown to Medicaid growth and the shift to states to control some of this Medicaid spending is going to be negative for the state of Arkansas, that it's going to not fill the gap, not fill the hole. But I hear you saying that it's going to be the reverse of that, Roby Brock asks Tom Cotton. So who are we to believe? Go.
Well, Roby, I think the future model of health care under this legislation would certainly be different than what it's been under Obamacare, with rising premium rates and higher deductibles, but it might be received in a different way. For instance, a couple months ago, our legislature and the governor moved about 60,000 Arkansans off of Arkansas Works, the expanded Medicaid program, and into the health insurance exchanges. That might be an option for Arkansas or many other states. Currently today, if a state hasn't expanded its Medicaid program, people who live at or below the poverty level level have no option whatsoever because tax credits aren't available to buy insurance on the private market. Under this legislation, tax credits would be available. And as I mentioned, one of the points that will be under negotiation in the coming days, providing a little bit of extra financial assistance to those who might need it to supplement those tax credits to pay for their health insurance premiums or their deductibles. So the way health insurance is delivered may change, but I'm committed to making sure that all Arkansans have access to health insurance.
All right, there you go. There's a lot there. There's a whole lot there. You know, sometimes I don't know. I don't really have any words for that. I don't have any words for that. I mean, it's confusing. It's confusing to me. As a conservative, it's confusing. Right? I think my analysis is this. I think that it's actually trying to avoid, because there's some avoidance there. I think it's trying to avoid the obvious gap between what ASA is advocating for, which is progressivism, and what the Republican bill, which is kind of progressive because they're okay with more subsidies and things like that, but more tax credits or whatever they want to say. It's still keeping government's foothold in the door of our health care, right? But at the same time, it is going to reduce those match rates there, and I really do think indirectly over time that's going to necessitate people to basically these programs to have to wind down because the states are just not going to be able to afford it. A state like Arkansas, we can't afford the 5%, much less the 10%, much less 30%. It's just we're not going to be able to do that, right? So anyway, it's interesting. No cuts to Medicaid. As you heard that, you're like, no cuts to Medicaid, but then Medicaid spending would continue to increase every year. But then we got block grants as well. So it's like I'm confused. At least if you take the interview as a whole, because I was confused with it. I listened to it last night. I listened to it again. I listened to it again today, and felt a little different about it. But anyway, let's see. I have a text here, real quick. 1 second. Yeah. Somebody writes, it sounds like we have ceded the point that all are owed insurance. That what you just heard there, unfortunately, this is the Republican plan. That was Senator Tom Cotton commenting on the Republican plan. And it does that's exactly why I think people like Rand Paul, Mike Lee have been so allergic to this, because we are essentially saying, which is what Asa said all along. When Asa Hutchinson went to the task force on health care, and he gave the speech, and he started urging the task force to keep Medicaid expansion, that he will continue accepting federal dollars for it. He used a phrase that essentially said that Washington, D.C. has decided that this is now our charter. This is now our mission, that this group of people. And he laid down. He ceded it then. We're not going to fight whether or not these people are owed other people's money to buy health insurance. We're not going to fight that anymore. And so, when it comes to – because, see, I can sit here and say, the plan to try to institute some work requirements, the goal in Arkansas, they say, is to get 60,000 people off the rolls. We'll see if that actually happens. But would I support decreasing the rolls by 60%? Yeah. Now, there's actually, the premiums are going up. So you could take 60,000 people off the rolls, and we still couldn't afford it if premiums keep going up, by the way. That's something that nobody wants to talk about. But in theory, yeah. Okay, that sounds good. But then these 60,000 people, they also are going to have what? It's just a shell game at that point. More federal dollars in some capacity, federal resources to pay for it. That's a great text message that it seems that we just have ceded the point. Now, I haven't, because you're not owed insurance. Healthcare is not a right. You are not born into America enslaved to pay for somebody else's healthcare. You're not. You're not conscripted to that. This is what they're bringing us towards. And yada, yada, yada. You can't have bacon. You can't have broccoli. And Charlie Gard has to die. Let me say that again. You're born enslaved to each other. I'm born enslaved to you. I'm responsible for your healthcare cost. You're responsible for my healthcare cost. The next step is no more bacon for you, only broccoli because I'm paying for it. And, oh, by the way, your son's too sick. He can't have the experimental treatment. It's just going to be better off if we let him die. That's the debate we're having. And I'm going to say it again. If Republicans don't get this right, they are responsible for something in the future. They will be that it scares me. I said at the beginning of the show, I am fearful, especially now as a first-time dad, a first-time father. Looking at what our country was when I was born versus what it is now and where we're going and all these great ideas that just require my undying devotion and all these great ideas that require forcing me to behave a certain way, no thank you. No thank you. I mean, what does it mean to be committed to make sure let me say this. What does it mean to be committed to make sure that all Arkansans have access to health insurance these days? What does that mean? In my opinion, they already do have access. You can go buy a Blue Cross Blue Shield policy right now. Oh, I mean, then you got that pesky regulation. Well, not if it's not an open enrollment period. I want to buy insurance the way I buy car insurance, the way I buy homeowners insurance. That's what I want. And I want somebody to bundle it all together. Wouldn't that be nice? I don't know. We're seeding the idea. Subsidies for all, I guess. Subsidies for all. We'll see what happens. Phone number is 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. I did reach out to Senator Cotton's office, and I did get a response back. My question to Senator Cotton's office was, first of all, Tom Cotton's welcome on the show anytime. He's been on the program before. He's welcome, and I'd love to talk to him, about this whole situation anytime. I asked for a comment on Governor Asa Hutchinson giving Senator Cotton credit for changes to the bill that included block grant funding for Arkansas's Medicaid expansion population. He went on MSNBC yesterday. He gave both Tom and Senator Bozeman the credit for the changes. Is this claim accurate? This is the response I got from the office. Quote, Senator Cotton has communicated with Governor Hutchinson throughout the health care debate, and that dialogue will continue in the coming weeks. He worked with Senator Bozeman to share those concerns with Senate leadership. Now, that is a very different statement, okay, than what Ace is out there saying, yeah, Senator Cotton got us the block grant for expanded Medicaid coverage. That is those are two different statements. I want to point that out, that those are conflicts there. I see the statement as a conflict. That yes, we're in the world of parsing words, but again, Senator Cotton has communicated with Governor Hutchinson. That's perfectly reasonable throughout the health care debate, and that dialogue will continue in the coming weeks. He worked with Senator Bozeman to share those concerns with Senate leadership. So that is not Senator Cotton taking credit for the Medicaid block grant. That's not them taking credit at all. Healthcare debate dialogue will continue in the coming weeks. Hey, but here's my position. Let me say this. Wouldn't it be great if Senator Cotton and Senator Bozeman just ignored Asa for the rest of the duration of this debate? I think we're to that point. I think my advice to them is to completely ignore Governor Asa Hutchinson for the duration of this debate, because the only thing he wants is the bill to be more progressive. That's the only thing Governor Hutchinson wants, is more federal money, more spending, more dependency, and more progressivism. He's to the left of Mitch McConnell. He doesn't support the bill as it is now. He was to the left of Paul Ryan a few months ago when they passed it out of the House. Think about that for a second. Think about that. I'll share your concerns. Sure, send me an email, and if I get time, I'll forward it to Mitch McConnell, and they can say, why did a southern state decide to implement Obama's signature domestic achievement? We got to go, folks. 870-275-9799. Text me if you want. Back in a minute.
If you would like information about advertising or supporting the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media Group, call 870-275-9755. Join the fight against big government and advance the preservation of liberty by calling 870-275-9755. The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
In a world full of constituents with social media accounts, bloggers just looking to increase their page views, and a talk radio host who generally is just the worst, how are Little Rock's elite supposed to conduct business with such a lack of privacy? Introducing the 1835 Club, older and more refined than other clubs that claim discretion. The 1835 Club is for seasoned political veterans that want to conduct the highest form of aristocratic business with the public's money. Are you a schemer? Do you someday want a guaranteed flow of taxpayer money to support your business? Is it your dream to see the .gov domain at the end of your business website? Don't listen to the imitators. The 1835 Club is the place where corrupt politicians and businessmen hatch their next crony schemes. At the 1835 Club, we make lobbying safe and legal. Ethics. Why, of course. All business is done in an ethical manner. Just look for the sign above the door that reads, loophole. Are you tired of the Capitol Police restricting your access to the roof after a perfectly good night of drinking? The 1835 Club has libations and a perfectly good roof. Other crony clubs that promise discretion try to lure you in by advertising bars made out of aeroplanes. Well, at the 1835 Club, instead of an airplane fuselage, we've got a space shuttle. No, not a bar. We've got an actual space shuttle that makes a daily run to the moon so members of the 1835 Club can have some real privacy away from the bloggers and taxpayers. Are you an Arkansas aristocrat? Do you want to be? It's the 1835 Club, and we work tirelessly to make sure the good old boy system remains alive and well. Join today.
Disclaimer. The 1835 Club reserves the right to deny membership to anyone who has principles. Any talk of the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution must be done in jest or, at the very least, with a condescending tone. And finally, the 1835 Club will be given a 25% commission of any agreements made between politicians and the business community.
PHP Parody.
I saw the story last night. I was up with my newborn child, and it's Todd Starnes, ToddStarnes.com. It caught my attention because I, for a long time, have, when it comes to the LGBT community, I have often wondered why or how, or maybe just not wondered why or how, because I know the answer to that, or I know the speculative answer that I would give. LGBT, I've often observed a interesting similarity or relationship between the rainbow, LGBT, and the rainbow. And I think it came a couple of years ago. I was reading in Genesis, and I was reading the flood story, and you get to the part where there is a rainbow, and then I say to myself, wow, what is the rainbow used for today? And it's not used to remind you of, I don't know, the aftermath of God's judgment. It's not used for that anymore. Instead, it's used for the LGBT community. So this story from Todd Starnes really stood out to me last night, because I've made that observation before. Todd Starnes writes, the man behind the world-famous Ark encounter, meaning Noah's Ark, has decided to reclaim God's rainbow, announcing the massive Ark exhibit will be permanently bathed in rainbow lights at night. Quote, "We now have new permanent rainbow lights at the Ark Encounter, so all can see that it is God's rainbow, and he determines its meaning in Genesis 6. End quote. Answers in Genesis found Ken Ham Answers in Genesis founder Ken Ham announced on Facebook. That's what he said. Quote, "The rainbow is a reminder God will never again judge the wickedness of man with a global flood. Next time the world will be judged by fire," he said. This has sent LGBT activists into a freakout. Now, the Ark, it's 500 foot long, right? People are going, they're flocking in droves. I know some people that went recently. It's the centerpiece of a biblical theme park based in Williamstown, Kentucky. Hundreds of thousands of visitors have toured the replica of Noah's Ark. The Ark is lit permanently at night with a rainbow to remind the world that God owns it, and he decreed it's a sign of his covenant with man after the flood. Critics, though, again, have denounced the decision, accusing him of stealing the rainbow colors from the LGBT community. Well, that's not true. You're not stealing the colors from the LGBT. I mean, I'm sure we could get into debates about how old the book of Genesis is, but it predates the LGBTRSTLNE, would you like to buy a Val community. Critics denounced the decision, accusing him of stealing the rainbow colors from the LGBT community. This is Ken Ham's, listen to this quote, "This is Ken Ham's sad attempt to take back the rainbow symbol from the LGBTQ community." Okay, well, so at least they're admitting to take it back, meaning essentially validating everything I just said. Kentucky Fairness Campaign's Chris Hartman told USA, quote, "It makes the Ark look incredibly gay." So he thinks now the Ark looks gay because it's lit in rainbows. In 2016, Ham urged Christians to reclaim the rainbow and teach young people its true meaning. Look, it's it's just fascinating to me. That's what I think. I think it's fascinating. It caught my eye last night because, again, I had this thought independent of, ever reading a publication about it. I was just sitting there reading one time, and I was like, rainbow. Or no, actually, I don't know if I was reading in Genesis or I don't think I was, actually. I think it was on the television. It was several years ago, and it was first thing in the morning. And it was a rainbow flag on TV, and I think it was a gay pride protest or something. And I was just like, I think I had recently read, and it just dawned on me. I was like, that's a symbol that it doesn't mean the same as it doesn't. That rainbow to me doesn't mean what it means to them. It means something completely different. I mean, it literally. I mean, that's what I don't know about you guys. That I was raised. Hey, look, it's a rainbow in the sky. Enter parents with perfect opportunity to, explain one of the most well-known stories in the entire Bible. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, let me tell you what the Bible says about that rainbow. 870-275-9799. Hey, folks, buy our Liberty Machine T-shirts. We're out of time for today. Hey, tomorrow I'm going to be broadcasting from the Capitol Hotel down in Little Rock. It's the Calvin Coolidge Awards. I'll be talking. It's going to be great. We'll be talking with people who are going to be there, kind of getting there early. But we're going to have the same news, the same coverage, the same stuff. It's also Johnny Cash Friday, so we'll have that music for you as well. But that's where I'll be tomorrow. But our Liberty Machine T-shirts, paulharrell.com, click on store and buy them. We have to go. We'll see you tomorrow. This episode is available at paulharrell.com, podcast, SoundCloud, iTunes, video archives. It's all free. Be safe, Arkansas.
CBS News Now.